It was Burna Boy who said, "How can I not be happy always? I'm from the streets of Africa." Hello and welcome to #Africa. I'm Tutuzile Ramela. We start with news from Senegal. The country heads to the polls on the 24th of February to elect a new president. Macky Sall, who came to power in 2012, is a firm favorite to win. Under his leadership, the country has been introduced to ambitious reform and development programs, including infrastructure projects. Newcomer, 45-year-old Osame Sonko, seems to have the all-important youth vote, though. He blew the whistle on corrupt officials in 2016. 3 others are also running, but it seems that Sall and Sonko are the ones to watch. The Amani Music Festival drew crowds of over 35,000 over 3 days to the city of Goma in the DRC's troubled east. Amani, meaning peace in Swahili, is in its 6th year and brings together people from across the Great Lakes area. The event showcases established and upcoming regional artists. And the European Union has released a list of 23 countries it will blacklist. Among them are 6 African nations: Botswana, Ethiopia, Ghana, Libya, Nigeria and Tunisia. The EU claims there are loopholes in these countries' banking systems that could facilitate money laundering and finance terrorism and human trafficking. Let's try and make sense of this now and see what this will mean for these African countries. I'm joined by political economist Gideon Chitanga. Gideon, always a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you.
Essentially, what does this mean now?
So I think that the process of plugging loopholes against the movement of money that ends up funding illicit activities, especially terrorism, is a big issue for the European Union and its allies. And I think they are just trying to push mainly those countries that hotbeds of terrorism, but also other African countries that are believed to have loopholes in their financial systems, so that they do not end up being used by terrorist organizations and actors to move money to intensify terrorism. I don't think that it's a big problem for these countries, because the EU or the European Commission is not passing like sanctions proper as we understand them, punitive sanctions proper as we understand them. But I think there will be a push for these countries to adjust their financial sectors to plug institutional mechanisms that that could potentially prevent the movement of money for purposes of terrorism, to put in new rules in place to protect their banking systems. The only challenging part is that when a financial system of a country is affected in any way, then it raises skepticism or doubt about the state of resilience and functionality of that financial system, and therefore it might have implications for how money for other purposes like investment then moves with that in the country. So that would be the only disadvantage, I think.
Right. Let's come to Zimbabwe and look at the financial viability of that country. So this week, news that it's launched an interbank foreign exchange market, which will see the removal of the fixed exchange rate between the US dollar and the Zim dollar. What does that essentially mean?
Interesting, because I think Zimbabwe is currently one of the most confusing countries when you talk about its financial sector, what you use to buy commodities or things, or as a medium of exchange. But I think it's important to first ask, what is the government trying to do here? So we obviously know that Zimbabwe does not have a proper sovereign currency of its own. So there is a perception that by introducing an interbank system, which they now want to call, or they are going to call the RTGS dollar, they've basically introduced a mode of exchange, or if you want, a sovereign currency in Zimbabwe that would be used to buy and sell. And what is the other interesting thing is that this RTGS dollar, through the interbank exchange system, is going to be integrated into the international exchange mode of exchange. So it means you can hold your US dollars and exchange them properly in a bank or in a financial institution or in a bureau de-change and get US dollars and other international currencies. That of late happened in the black market and not within the formal system. So you can see that this is a method to harness money that was circulating in the black market, or to basically kill the forex black market and get it integrated, by way of integrating it into a formal market where the government now floats its RTGS dollar to the market forces. So the government has basically just stopped regulating the exchange or the fixed exchange, which was one bond note to a $1.
Will they win, though? Because you go to the streets in Zimbabwe and it's very easy for you to purchase bond notes from the black market.
Yeah, a lot of analysts have pointed to the government focus being targeted towards addressing symptoms, the symptoms of a failed financial sector, but which also demonstrate a failing broader economy. Within this monetary policy, I must say there are a lot of incentives for producers, for manufacturers, for miners, for those in agriculture. And I think the idea is to help them to increase production, to increase exports, so that the country can attract more foreign currency. However, I think this is too limited to resuscitate the economy in a comprehensive way. So there is need for a holistic economic package that simultaneously addresses the fundamentals together with the structural challenges within the economy, and also fixes the financial sector. There is need to generate confidence in the currency, and confidence in the market, and confidence in the political system and the political leadership. Now, this is where we have, I think, a big problem, because when you talk politics in Zimbabwe, you are actually just talking a polarized society where the political leaders are not demonstrating serious will to move towards each other, to converge, to close their difference, so that the country can focus on its economic challenge as a national community. And so I would say that these are important changes, very critical changes, and I think if Zimbabweans are going to work practically over time, and people get comfortable and adjusted to using it, a certain level of foreign currency could be attracted into the main economy, but it will be too small to help to transform the broader economy.
Sure, still a long road ahead. Thank you very much for helping us make sense of that. Political economist Gideon Chitanga, always a pleasure. Do stay with us. When we return, an alarming report on sexual abuses in South Sudan. More in a moment.